We're accustomed to viewing visas as purely administrative instruments, rubber stamped permissions for travel, study, or work, but visas can be far more than that. Issued wisely, they can be instruments of encouragement, weapons of diplomacy, even ambassadors of liberty. Today, I argue that Britain, under Keir Starmer's leadership, must radically reframe its visa policy, particularly towards liberal-minded Russians, as an explicit strategy to undermine Vladimir Putin's regime. Both the Telegraph and the Times contain articles pushing that idea. I think it should be leveraged in a more general basis, and I think particularly we should be targeting students. This is not just charity, it's a profound act of self-interest, economic enrichment, and democratic reinforcement. And it would overturn a lot of the nonsense put forward by Theresa May and her hostile environment. This is something that needs to be leveraged through the Home Office. And a visa is fundamentally an invitation. It says to the individual, we trust you enough to invest in you. The simple act of trust is profoundly powerful. Historically, the West defeated totalitarianism, not only with tanks and treaties, but by creating an irresistible alternative, the offer of dignity, education, and economic freedom. And encouraging Russia's best minds to defect is not a betrayal of national identity. It's the clearest possible confirmation of our values. A visa offered to a talented individual trapped under an authoritarian regime is a lifeline. It rescues them from an environment of suspicion, repression, and propaganda, and it invites them into a life of agency and contribution. It enriches our country. By contrast, denying visas is not neutrality, it's an inadvertent complicity, locking the dissident doctor, the censored academic, the endangered activist inside Putin's iron embrace. So, the practical application about student and high potential visas, how should this be implemented? The Henry Jackson Society's latest report, Russian Reality Check, How to Destabilize the Kremlin, offers a sharp and persuasive blueprint. First, we must drastically expand two specific visa categories: high potential individual visas for those with provable expertise in technology, engineering, medicine, and academia, and two, student visas specifically targeting young liberal Russians desperate to study in free institutions. In doing so, we simultaneously drain Russia's human capital and we enrich Britain's. Every young engineer who defects from Russia builds our industry. Every young journalist who flees Russia, or every journalist of any age who flees Russia, strengthens our media. Every coder who leaves St. Petersburg improves our technology base and reduces that of Russia. Moreover, fostering a vibrant pro-Western Russian exile community would be a political investment, one that may well in time assist in rebuilding the post-Putin Russia. Instead of oligarchs buying London townhouses, we should cultivate dissidents, building small businesses, lecturers teaching future generations, and journalists strengthening the fourth estate. Now, some will say sanctions are enough, but sanctions without incentives merely punish a population without offering a vision of escape. Sanctions, paralleled by a relaxed visa regime or a targeted visa regime, now that is something that I think any sane person could get behind. Sanctions paired with opportunities, seizing the frozen 258 billion euros in Russian assets to fund Ukrainian reconstruction, certainly, but also using relocation incentives to peel away the skilled and the ambitious from Russia's decaying core. Moreover, with Donald Trump's openly discussing lifting sanctions in the current framework of his Ukrainian peace plan, Britain and Europe must be ready to carry the moral burden alone. The creation of a free, educated, liberal Russian diaspora is one way to insulate our values against transactional global politics. Every psychological operation against the Kremlin, cyber disruption of its propaganda outlets, all of these benefit if a single number of Russia's best minds are no longer shackled to the Kremlin's whims. A brain drain, then, is not merely incidental, it must be deliberate policy. And it must be paralleled also by a plan to match the propaganda of the Kremlin with propaganda of the West through Russia. It's not an impossibility. It's not an unforeseeable measure, and we should have been doing it at least 3 years ago. So Keir Starmer needs to recognize that he stands now at an historic threshold. The question is whether he will continue treating visas as cautious permissions, whether he will continue to be trapped by the Home Office's dilatory laziness, by the Home Office's stubbornness, or will he elevate visas into strategic invitations to freedom, to self-realization, and to the slow but certain decay of authoritarianism at its source? The issuing of a visa to people from Russia, to people from Iran, and to others, can be an act of extraordinary courage, the hand reaching out through the Iron Curtain, through the new Iron Curtain, offering hope to those that, with the will to grasp it. Let's not merely sanction Russians' crimes. Let's not merely sanction the crimes of Putin. Let's welcome Russia's future.